You think you're bad at budgeting. You've tried the apps, you've read the articles, you've downloaded the spreadsheets. Just track your spending, stop buying lattes, use the 50-30-20 rule. And every month, you fail. The money disappears, the budget falls apart, and you blame yourself. You think it's a discipline problem, a willpower problem, a you problem. It's not. You're not failing at budgeting. You're trying to use a wealth-building framework designed for people with surplus while living in a state of scarcity that hasn't changed in 800 years. The budgeting advice you're getting, it's for people who have money left over after survival. You're operating under the same brutal math as a medieval peasant staring at a pile of grain, knowing one wrong decision means starvation. And here's what nobody tells you. The peasant had a better system than you do, because his budget wasn't about getting ahead. It wasn't about building wealth. It was about one thing, seeing the spring alive. And the framework he used, the 3-category survival budget that kept humanity alive for millennia, is exactly what you need right now. But first, you need to understand why modern budgeting advice is designed to make you feel like a failure. And then it gets worse. Imagine waking up in a world where your entire year's income arrives in one terrifying moment, not bi-weekly, not monthly, once. You're standing in a field in October. In front of you is a pile of grain. That's it. That pile is your salary, your savings, your emergency fund, your investment portfolio, everything for the next 365 days. There are no second paychecks, no bonuses, no "I'll make it up next month." This pile of grain is the physical manifestation of time itself. Every seed represents one day of food, one day of life. And you have to divide it, right now, today. 10% goes to the church, non-negotiable. They call it a tithe. You call it a mandatory tax on your soul. 25% has to go back into the ground as seed. If you don't plant it, there's no harvest next year, no income, no future. What's left, 65%, has to feed you, your wife, your children through an entire winter, through sickness, through cold, through everything. Get the math wrong by even 5%? Your family starves in March. This is budgeting when the stakes are life and death. And here's the part that should terrify you. Most people living paycheck to paycheck today are facing the exact same equation. The numbers changed. The urgency didn't. You're not bad at budgeting. You're just trying to survive with a system designed for people who've never had to. The official story, budgeting is a skill, a discipline, something you learn from finance blogs and personal responsibility podcasts. The story goes, if you're struggling financially, it's because you're not tracking your spending. You're making bad choices, eating out too much, buying things you don't need. You lack financial literacy. The solution, they say, is simple. Use the 50-30-20 rule. 50% of your income for needs, 30% for wants, 20% for savings and debt repayment. It's clean, it's simple. It's been shared by every financial advisor, money influencer, and self-help guru for the past 2 decades. And if it's not working for you, well, that's your fault. You're not disciplined enough. You're not committed enough. You need to try harder. But that's only the version people who've never been broke want you to remember, because it's a framework designed for people with surplus, people who have money left over after survival. The 50-30-20 rule assumes you have discretionary income. It assumes wants and needs are separate categories. It assumes you have 20% left over. The truth is, when you're in survival mode, when rent, food, utilities, and minimum debt payments consume 80 to 90% of your income, the 50-30-20 rule isn't just useless, it's insulting. You're not operating in a wealth-building framework, you're operating in a survival framework, and that framework is ancient. Let me show you what I mean. Let's go back to medieval England, around 1300. Meet our farmer. History doesn't care about his name. They called him a villain, a serf, someone who owed labor to a lord. But for this story, he's the CEO of Survival Inc., and his entire annual revenue arrives in one absolutely terrifying window, the autumn harvest. That pile of grain on the threshing floor, that's not money, that's time. It's the physical manifestation of the next 365 days of his life. His entire financial year, food, obligations, future security, must be carved from this one pile. There are no second chances, no backup plans, no I'll figure it out later. This is the ultimate zero-based budget. Every single seed is accounted for before winter even starts, and the math is brutal. So he begins the division, and the first cut is the deepest, and it's not his. Category 1, the tithe, 10%. One sheaf in every 10 goes to the church. This isn't a donation, this isn't charity, this is a mandatory spiritual tax on your soul. 10% of everything gone before you even start. Category 2, seed corn, 25%. This is the most critical investment decision of his entire year. How much of this year's food do you sacrifice to guarantee next year's food? Too little seed? The harvest fails. You starve next year. Too much seed? Your children go hungry this winter. The rule was stark. You must reinvest 25% of everything you have back into the ground untouched, or there is no tomorrow. Category 3, consumption, 65%. What's left, the remaining 65%, is for everything else: food, warmth, survival until spring. This is the discretionary spending of the medieval world, except there's no discretion. It's barley bread, vegetable pottage, and prayers that it lasts until April. Notice what's missing. No entertainment category, no clothing budget, you own one tunic, no transport, you walk, no rent, you pay that with forced labor. This budget accounts for absolute biological and social necessity, nothing else. It's the bare metal operating system of a human life. 10% tithe, 25% seed, 65% survival. That's it. That's the framework that kept humanity alive for thousands of years. And this is where it gets absolutely crucial, because that framework, that brutal 3-category system, isn't ancient history. It's your life right now. You're just using different words for the same categories, and because no one's telling you that, you think you're failing when actually you're doing exactly what humans have always done when resources are scarce. Let me show you. Let's translate this scarcity math to a modern, low-income budget. The percentages shift slightly, but the psychological framework is identical.
Your modern tithe, fixed, non-negotiable costs. This isn't church taxes anymore. It's rent or mortgage, minimum debt payments, student loans, credit cards, utilities that get shut off if you don't pay, basic phone because you need it to work. These are your non-negotiables, the things that, if you don't pay them, your life structurally collapses. For someone making $2,500 a month, this might be $1,800. That's 72%. Pay these first, before anything else. This is your tithe. Your modern seed corn, investment into future you. This is the hardest category to fund, but without it, you're screwed. Your seed corn is paying down principal on debt, not just interest. Every dollar on principal is seed planted. Putting $20, even $10 into an emergency fund jar. Spending on skills training, certifications, anything that increases your earning power. Building credit by keeping one card with small, consistent payments. This isn't savings in the wealth-building sense. This is investing in your own survival infrastructure. The peasant who didn't plant seed had no harvest next year. You who don't invest in future you will be trapped in the same crisis forever. For someone making $2,500 a month, after tithe you might have $700 left. Can you force yourself to protect 125 of that, 5%, as seed? That's your escape fund. Guard this with your life. It's the only thing that changes your future. Your modern consumption. What's left to live on? The remaining $575, that's food, gas to get to work, minimal clothing replacements. This is where you live, daily. It's not comfortable, it's not fun, but it's measured, deliberate survival. And here's the key the peasant understood that modern budgeting advice doesn't. You're not trying to thrive on this amount. You're trying to protect the seed. The 50-30-20 rule fails because it assumes you have 20% surplus. You don't. You have 5% seed, and your entire job is to make sure it survives until it grows. The dirty secret. And here's the part that should make you furious. This isn't a personal failure. This is a structural design. Modern financial advice, the 50-30-20 rule, the just stop spending advice, the budget better shame, is built for people with surplus income. It was never designed for survival mode. It was designed for people who've already made it past survival and are now optimizing wealth. This wasn't an accident. It's a ticking bomb built into financial literacy education, and everyone involved pretends people living in scarcity don't exist. They tell you to save 20% when you're trying to figure out if you can afford both rent and food. They tell you to invest in your 401k when you're one car repair away from homelessness. It's like handing someone drowning in the ocean a pamphlet about competitive swimming techniques. The advice isn't wrong, it's just for a completely different situation than yours. And by pretending the framework is universal, they make you feel broken when the real problem is they're using the wrong map. The mindset: survival versus scarcity. But here's where the peasant can teach you something powerful. There's a difference between a scarcity mindset and a survival mindset. Scarcity mindset is fear. It's staring at the empty bank account and panicking. It's feeling like a failure because there's never enough. Survival mindset is ritual and control. It's the deliberate daily act of measuring exactly where every dollar goes, not because you're broken, but because measurement is the only power you have. The peasant didn't budget to get rich. He budgeted to see the spring. Every morning he measured grain from the storage sack into a pot, the same amount every day. That measurement wasn't a constraint, it was the map. It was his security in an insecure world. When every resource is scarce, knowing exactly where everything goes is the only form of control you can create. It turns panic into procedure, fear into a plan. The budget isn't about morality or intelligence. It's the oldest technology we have for turning scarcity into order. The 3 questions. So if you're struggling right now, if you're in survival mode and all the budgeting advice feels like bullshit designed for someone else, forget the apps, forget the influencers. Go back 800 years. Ask the peasants 3 questions. What is my non-negotiable tithe? What are the fixed costs that, if I don't pay them, my life structurally collapses? Rent, minimums, utilities. Pay these first. Protect the foundation. What is my seed corn? What small amount, 5%, $20, something, can I force into future me? Debt principal, emergency fund, skill building. Guard this with your life. This is your escape fund. This is what changes everything. What's left to live on? And can I measure it daily, deliberately, so I make it to next month? This is where you live. Make peace with it while you're protecting the seed. These 3 questions strip away all the noise, all the guilt, all the comparison. They acknowledge a brutal truth. Hope is not a strategy, but a measured cup of grain is. The peasant's budget wasn't about getting ahead. It was about not falling behind into starvation. And if you're in survival mode right now, that's not a moral failure. That's a structural reality millions of people face. The budgeting advice that makes you feel like a failure, it's not for you, not yet. It's for people who've already escaped survival mode. You need a different framework, an older one that acknowledges scarcity and turns it into a system. Budgeting isn't about morality, it's about survival. And you're not failing, you're doing exactly what humans have always done when resources are tight. The only difference is, now you have the framework. Now you know the 3 categories. Now you can stop blaming yourself and start protecting the seed. Because in 6 months, in a year, that seed grows. And when it does, that's when the wealth building advice starts to work. But you have to survive first. And now you know how. You're not bad at money. You're just using the wrong map. Now you have the right one. If you love my videos and more like this, please like and subscribe to my channel.